I think first and foremost, we have to, as pastors, make sure that we believe our own theology and that we're not just teaching people things like dependence, things like prayer, as a matter of duty in any way. But before we can actually bring a culture of prayer into our churches, we have to be convinced of it in our own hearts. We can't be wishy-washy about it in our own hearts. We can't lead where we don't go. We can't teach what we don't know. And so it doesn't mean we become perfect at prayer. I'm not perfect at prayer at all, but I'm convinced wholeheartedly that that's the only way. And I'm convinced wholeheartedly based on my theology, based on what the Word of God says. And so do I wrestle with that? Of course, we wrestle with that, believing that versus believing lies that, there's other things that will grow the church. There's other ways that can establish ministries. So I think it comes down to believing our theology and then practicing and living out what we believe. If we believe it, if we're convinced of it, then we actually do it. How do we know we believe in the power of prayer? I tell our church this so often. How do we know we believe in the power of prayer? We actually pray. And we can't say we believe it and not pray because that's a contradiction in terms. So I think first and foremost, we have to be convinced of our theology. If our doctrinal statement says we believe in the power of prayer, then the way we prove that is we actually pray. So beginning that way, do I believe it? And is my belief compelling the action of dependent prayer? And then from there, I just really believe once we're convinced of it, it will come out. That's just been my experience. People often tell me, you're always talking about prayer in your sermons. Wherever you find yourself in the Word of God, it always comes out. It's not because I'm trying to impose an agenda or anything on the text that I'm in. It's just because I'm convinced of our dependence on the Lord, so it comes out. It comes out when I make announcements. It comes out when I'm leading different things. It just always comes out because we're convinced of it, and we just know we can't take the next step without Him. So belief theologically leads to the action of actually praying personally, and that personal prayer life, God stokes the fire of it, and it causes you now to step up in front of the people and say, I can't live without this. We can't live without this. And so it changes the way that you lead. That's been my experience, and it impacts the whole church.